Yo, what is good, my anime faithful? What is good, yo? Guys, we are looking at a masterpiece of mind craziness because at this point in time, I don't think people really get as much as I'm getting from this show in the case of what the heck is actually going to be, the end all be all of some of these things that they're already pretty much throwing at us. So, one thing that they've really shown us is everything that's coming to the forefront in the case of the valleys and the valleys and the peak being very, very important things to the people that have these um, ways of being able to be crushed in, so to speak, of a way. So not only do you have this weird crushing term that they use to pretty much destroy one's mind and not only one's mind but even oneself inside their own uh, valley or peak as they call it. So it's one of these things now where if anything continues to happen in these places, it becomes clear what can be possible at the end of the day because of our boys that we are watching dive in and try to learn as much as possible about just this one person to not only change his whole entire uh, like valley and or it's just his valley. They had to change his peak and how it became what it was because at the peak you get this like very satisfying um, just overall narrative of how things are taken and actually put into perspective by these people in what was like really good times of their lives and then going from all the way from the peak dropping down to the valley, or sometimes the peak started to blend in with some of the valley, or not even just the peak, I guess you could just say some of the memories in general. The valley started to kind of bleed in once things started to settle down in a weird way. Why is that the outfit I get from my character? That's not cool. But as a whole, man, I'm telling you guys, this is about to be a weird, weird show. And weird shows are good things, I feel. Like, sometimes you can't really put into perspective just how many different things are going to come from anime. And I think that's why I love it so much. I think that's why anime is one of the things I can truly say is something I look forward to seeing almost every single day because there's something different that could happen every time I watch it. And sure, that could be for like every single show in the world that is interesting and has good concepts. For instance, The Boys on Amazon was very like out there in the case of what the heck is going to happen now that they did this and then something else happens and it's just like a never-ending cycle of what the heck's going to happen, what the heck's going to happen, did that just happen, what the heck's going to happen. And that's what I love about Pet. What the heck is going to happen is what all you got to say throughout the whole entire time, and you would have a good understanding of just where things are going or where things are headed just off of that. So now to think about the big ordeal that comes from the change of one's peak and just the 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 little bit that happened from it already became something kind of bad in the case of one of our characters because one of our characters decided to do something about one of the guys who actually give him the job as the crushers. And because he was in a position where he kind of didn't like the way he was being handled by the person that was supposedly the superior, he took action and started to pretty much make him start to remember different things that were, catastrophic to what he has memory of these, these peoples, these things that continuously show up, like these valleys and these peaks. seemingly he doesn't have one himself, but once he goes into other people's, he knows somewhat what to do to all of a sudden crush them. And by seeing these reactions inside of the Valley Peak and inside of the mine in general, was a really good tall tale sign of what the show is really capable of, right? Like imagine getting the criminal that they need and then trying to synchronize and go into his mind just to find out he has just as much power in there as you do when you came in. So, or even more or something, right? The show has so much little things that are going on that make me very curious as to what will they do with the main characters? Who is the main character for real? Like, is it the man who turns into water and then has to slowly build himself up? Or is it the man who turns into a fish and is very, very passionate about, you know, not really being so-called a crusher and being more of someone that isn't just going to outright murder people if they don't have to. Um, I'm guessing you guys were just as confused on who the character from the very first episode is, like the kid, and then the person who jumped in to save said kid, right? Like, there's so much that has already been kind of sprinkled in and then not explained, and then other things have gotten, excuse me, more attention than others. So it just puts in my mind, I have so much things to remember just to be safe, right? Like if I don't remember that the person with the blonde hair seems more likely to be the kid by the television than anybody, that's crazy. So that's something worth remembering, and it kind of goes to show you how much time has gone by seemingly since they got him, and it just kind of gives you perspective how old that means how old these guys are now, or how old they are, and if that means like time moves weirder for these people with these valleys and gates, which doesn't seem to be the case necessarily. Depending on how much time they were spending in this other guy's psyche, he seemed to live a relatively normal lifestyle, or not lifestyle, length, normal length style. So it's not like his years jumped dramatically different from these other guys, which I don't even think we knew his age from the rip, so we wouldn't even know how long he's been alive for if we wanted to. So regardless of everything that's popping off in this show, I still feel like the two characters who really put in all this effort to stop the kill of this man and have him being crushed, to then having him kind of spoil one of the things for the smoker guy, who he was pretending to smoke, not knowing that his mind had been messed with, or he was already like told to pretty much pretend to smoke, but know that you're not supposed to light it or something like that. So very, very funny. Until the guy kind of figures out that that's what's going on. He's like, "So I thought you quit." The guy who we didn't crush this week asked, like, if you thought if you thinking I quit smoking, I didn't. And then he looks over at the other guy. And he's like, "Oh." He's like, "Are you trying to stop smoking? Because you haven't even lit yours. I lit mine, and yours is not lit." He's like, "What?" And that was kind of the indicator of all that work you just did, and he just snitched on one of the things you did to him. And I mean, it kind of would have been something he would have found out sooner or later, but the blonde guy who has been on his side didn't even tell him either. So that's three people that he's working with that probably knew what was going on and didn't say anything. So we know how people get. People get angry at stuff like that. So we'll see how it all plays out. Steve, I just bopped you. Why are you here? But overall, I will talk to you guys in the next one. I hope you're having an amazing day, night, evening, whatever the case may be. I am your boy, the Anime G, and I'm still getting a little bit better at Tekken. I'm not the best, but it can only get better from here, right? So with all that being said, peace.